Hello, everyone, and welcome to Humanity's Heart. My name is Dr. Robyn Mills, and I hope that today we engage, energise, and expand your heart in some way. I'm excited to introduce to you my special guest today, Marney. And Marney is a heart-centred natural therapy practitioner. Her aim is to restore women's energy and vitality throughout Queensland, Mackay and to Mango Hill. And she says, who would believe that her inflamed teenage heart would affect Marney throughout her life, and especially in business? Hello, Marney.
Thanks, Robyn. Thanks for having me.
Wow, so an inflamed teenage heart. That sounds interesting.
I was diagnosed at, I think, 15 with rheumatic fever, and an ongoing complication of rheumatic fever was something called St. Vitus dance, which is a neurological imbalance in the brain. So the infection from the stroke went to the brain and it affected my voluntary and involuntary movements. So you can imagine as a teenager not being able to walk across a playground or anything without one leg moving in front of the other to trip me. And I'd be sitting in class and my hand would fly up in the air, so you try and scratch your head or do something. So it was a fairly awkward thing to have at that age. And then the rheumatic side of it meant I had to have bed rest, so because it can do damage to your heart. So I had 3 months in bed in hospital. So, but it taught you, one of the things it taught me, and this is a hindsight thing, like you don't realise at the time which lesson you're taking or which nugget of gold you're taking from any experience. But for me, it was about being able to put a very mundane thing of being able to put toothpaste on a toothbrush and actually achieve that aim, sort of thing. I can remember rushing out, because we're talking like I'm in my 60s now, and back then it was, visiting hours were different and there was a lot of rules and regulations, and mum and dad were out in the waiting room waiting to come in after hours, and I would race out there in my nightie saying, oh, I put toothpaste on the toothbrush, and people looking at you and saying, oh, gee, she's clever, isn't she? But I hadn't been able to do it. I hadn't had no control over my voluntary and involuntary movements. So for me, it was huge being able to do that. And it taught me that, simple things like that are things that help you get forward. And it's the same in clinic. If it's too complicated for clients, they won't do it.
It's so true.
It has to.
Imagine getting that much joy out of being able to put toothpaste on a toothbrush, like for life to be that complicated, that was a major goal, a major step for you. That's what an incredible period in your life, and especially when you're a teenager and you already feel different and strange in a developing world. To have this thrown in must have been such enormous.
And there was all the emotional, stuff and hormonal stuff that was going on as well. And it was a time in my life where I ran away from home, but I was very careful. I made sure everyone had notes on their bed as to where I was going and what I was doing, and that was all part of the imbalance of everything that was happening in my life. And my dad beat me to where I was going, by the way. By the time I got there, he was already there. So my brother had come home, found the notes and rang Dad. Dad raced home and beat me to where I was going. So yeah.
That is a beautiful story. That's a really beautiful story. So having something like rheumatic fever would have you think that your life was going to be shortened. You would have been fearful for your life, I imagine.
I don't know, at 15 I had much knowledge about that sort of stuff. All I knew, I was feeling very unwell, and when they finally worked out why I was unwell, it was then the journey to get me better again. So I don't know that at 15 I had any thought about what a dicky heart could do. Yes. And I was monitored very carefully for many, many years.
And what did it teach you about living from the heart? Because I know that you help women live from the heart, so it must have taught you something really important.
I suppose you get given, as I said, you get given those little nuggets of gold, or I call them pearls of wisdom. And even if you're not fully understanding what the pearl of wisdom is about, it did teach you, you had to calm down, you had to quieten down. I remember being bed rested for those 3 months in hospital. I loved drawing, and I would draw amazing stuff, which I now don't have time to do. But I could copy things. Once I put paint on anything, I lost points in my art classes. But if I could just draw, I was fine. So it teaches you, each thing that happens in your life creates a knowledge bank for something that happens in the future that you can draw on, so you can have a different decision. I suppose that's part of the process, because it's, your life's hopefully a long time, so you've got lots of things that you experience that help you to make better decisions if they come up again. Because I don't always like the concept of didn't learn your life lessons enough, so you come back to do another one. I find that a very negative concept, but I believe we gain wisdom and knowledge from things that we experience, and that helps us in the future.
I absolutely agree. And when you said that, you'll have something happen, and then later on in life, that experience of having that happen comes forward, and it's something that you can use. I absolutely believe in that. And I think hindsight should be available earlier.
Oh, absolutely. Hindsight's the intuition you didn't listen to.
Yes. How many times have I had my intuition screaming in my ear, and I've gone against it, or deliberately not
or
listened?
didn't listen.
Just
or didn't understand. I think sometimes, Robyn, it's the understanding. You haven't quite interpreted what the challenges or the messages are, because let's face it, we can get some wonderful messages from our guides and angels.
Yes, I remember when I was working in an emergency department, and I was held at knife point. And as I went to go into that cubicle to interview the person that I didn't know, I had an intuition that said, "You are in danger, protect yourself." And I went, I'm the psych nurse interviewing the patient, and I'm hearing voices. This is a worry. So I ignored it. And as I got closer to the cubicle, I got, "How loudly does a bell have to ring? You are in danger, protect yourself." So I picked up a clipboard and held it against my chest, as I went in, but I sat on the cubicle bed. Well, I'm really short, so I can't run from that. I have to jump off the bed first and then run. And so when she opened her handbag, my intuition was going, gun, knife, gun. I wasn't sure what was coming. And then when I saw what it was, I ran so fast. I was like grease lightning running past. But such an important message like that, and I totally ignored it as I'm going a bit loopy here. Whereas really, I was being saved by my intuition that knew somehow that I could feel that threat of danger.
Yeah, it puts you on alert. So there's one of the archangels, I think it's Michael, who there's a card that comes up that says it's one of those in your face kind of stops, but it's to stop you from that immediate danger. So if you're suddenly jerked up, or get a real fright about something, sometimes it's Archangel Michael giving you that one of those really short, sharp slaps to make you aware that something is going on.
So how do you teach women to listen?
I think they have to. I'm a natural therapist, so I work a lot with I work predominantly with people's stress. So women especially, have to understand that they've got to have their cup empty. Their stress bucket has to be emptier to be able to cope with life and be resilient in life, because so often they don't put themselves first, and they've got so many other demands on their time, and they're so busy. Busy is a silent stress. It's an invisible stress. Sucks your energy. It's a sleep vampire. It's a self-confidence demoralizer. And we don't realize it because we're so busy being busy that we think that's important. And so you have to teach people how to de-stress, or to calm themselves, or to have some sort of a little pause button that helps them to stop what's happening immediately, even for a couple of seconds, so that they can regroup and regather their thoughts.
Because really,
that's what
stress layers, doesn't it? It before you know it, you've forgotten how to just be, how to stop and stop thinking, and just allow yourself to be. And one of the beautiful things that I have in my local area is the beach. And so the sun rises. I can go down there at 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning and watch the sun rise. And, when you're sitting or walking, watching the sunrise, you're not thinking about what someone said to you last week or last night. You're actually looking at that sunrise going, wow, a new
Yeah.
day, all the possibilities in a new day.
And that's something I'm starting to encourage some clients. I mean, some people's lives are really not the best, so that they do have a lot of challenges in their lives, and you have to tell them or show them how to start from the heart. And, you know, the first thing you can do to help your heart is to be grateful. So I've got a few clients where their whole protocol for health is when I wake up of a morning, I have to think of one positive thought. And, you know, 2 weeks later, you get them back, and how's that going? Oh, I'm getting there. But, you know, it's not the easiest thing for some people. Their life, they wake up and they're instantly into that adrenal response of everything that's going to happen. You can just pause that for a second, even 5 seconds, and open your eyes and go, oh, what a beautiful day. It sets the scene for the day ahead. You can do lots of other things afterwards, but get that scene set straight away, because not everyone can meditate. You know, people say, oh, meditate 5 minutes. Everyone, you don't always have 5 minutes when you wake up your eyes, especially if you've got a little one's face looking at you straight away.
Yes, that's so true, those little ones.
Mm.
Although the little ones are heart opening, I have to say, that energy,
Yeah.
that beautiful unconditional love. If you're lucky enough to have that present in your life, it can be an incredibly healing tool to see the purity of love.
Yes. And they're so generous with their thoughts and their expressions, and oh, they're beautiful.
That excitement in their face, in their eyes when they get something really simple, you know, something that yeah. You know, sometimes I'll say, do you want to come out and see the moon? The moon's up, you know, if they're still awake when the moon comes.
Yeah.
And they're just so excited that the moon's up, you know, like as an adult, we know it comes up every night. So,
Goes
but
down
you
again.
know what? When you look at the moon through the eyes of a child, the moon becomes something incredible.
And it is. We've just become accustomed to it.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't come up, we wonder where it is.
Yes. That's true. You're looking for it in the clouds. What would be, if you were looking back over your life, Marnie, I wonder how your heart would say you lived your life.
I'd say I lived it fairly kindly, actually, and that's a big thing for me. One of my biggest can't think of the word, but thing that gets me going is family and being part of a family. It doesn't mean your family life is honky-dory and everything's going smoothly. We've had plenty of, you know, challenges, emotional, medical, all sorts of challenges in our lives. But it's that family unit. To me, family is everything. And so long as you've got some sort of family around you, and for those who are alone, find a pet. A pet's family. You know, there are things out there that you can attach to or become part of, or, you know, volunteering. I do a lot of volunteering, and that fills another part of my heart as well. So
now there was something in your bio, and I wasn't game to pronounce it, somewhere where you volunteer, so I'm going to leave that up to you.
Okay, so I'm the secretary for Soroptimist International, Moreton North. That's
what
the word.
Is that?
I'm really. It's a women's organisation for advocate for women and girls. So we're a global organisation. So I think there's 75,000 members at the moment in 132 countries, and it's all about helping women have a hand up, not a handout, and advocating on their behalf. So what's, you know, for shelter, for food, for safety, for security. And the difference with Soroptimist to a lot of other service clubs is that we have consultative status at the UN, so that we work on a really high level. But then we do grassroots stuff as well.
Can you spell that for people who are listening?
SOROPTIMIST International. So that's the governing group. And I'm in the Moreton North.
What a fantastic thing to be able to empower people across the world to be able to be part of that.
And I was a guest speaker, so someone asked me to come along and talk about self-care and nurturing, which was one of the workshops that I do. And I thought, oh, who the hell are these people? I've never heard of them, but I knew the lady that asked me. And I said,
Yes.
yeah, sure, I'll come along. And I usually make a little dilly bag for everyone and give them little gifts. And I'm sitting there listening to these 5 women or 6 women, and they were talking about some of the inspiring things they were doing. And one of the things I noted, again, it was that connection to each other. Was often when you're in a volunteer organisation or sporting club or whatever, if you're on the management committee or you're being seen as some sort of a leader, your children, you can't be seen to favour your children. So sometimes you almost don't favour them in place of someone else's. But in this group, the current president at the time, her daughter was hearing impaired, and the group were assisting the daughter, like being big sisters or big aunties and helping the daughter. And when she got picked in a state team, they assisted in helping to fundraise. And I'm going, oh my God, they're actually allowing the mother to encourage the daughter to be part of the activities. And I thought it was awesome. I just went, wow. And they were health related. Like I was able to go in there and talk about health and wellness, and I've run many workshops for them, for other organisations as well. So for me, it was like finding my tribe. It was good. And I didn't think of myself as a feminist, but it is a lot of advocating for the rights of women and girls, or anyone disadvantaged for that matter.
Yes, so not limited to women and girls.
Organisation is the members are women and girls, but if there's a boy that needs help, you help the boy or the man. So it's helping families cope.
That's really incredible. And as you say, there's a part in your heart that's warmed and energized and sparked when you make a difference in the world, because our hearts beat as one. And so when you can lift your vibration to help another person and your heart energy matches, then you both get elevated. And that vibration is healing for both people, not just for the person who's receiving.
Yeah, it's universal. The abundance on the universe is phenomenal, and if you can tap into it. And many people don't know how to tap in it, or don't believe it. I don't know. I've grown a lot in the last 15 years with natural health. It's opened my eyes to many different aspects of life that I wasn't aware of prior to being a natural therapist or using natural therapies. But I also likened many of it, like I really was challenged with, previous lives and past lives, or, angel messages and stuff. I know, this is so crazy. And then I stood back and I went, you know what? I brought up a Catholic. We had angels all our lives. We had guardian angels, and you prayed to someone if you needed help. It was no different. They were just a different style of angel.
And in fact, you're on Angel Heart Radio, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I've been on it. It's nearly 10 years now. So we talk all things kinesiology, and then we get sidetracked with other stuff.
I really love kinesiology.
Yeah.
It's been around a long time. And it really, if you'd like to explain it to people.
Yeah, it's where we work with, it's a study of movement and its basis form. But with the Chinese philosophy, it's all about your body is whole. It's not, your head's not distanced from your toes. There's a connection there. So working with the connections. And the awesome thing about kinesiology is you talk to people's arms. You don't always talk to their mouths. So they go, oh, this is all a bit strange. But it's about that memory again that we were talking about before, and that muscle response. So when a muscle works well, like mine when I was a child, my muscles didn't work well. The messages sending from my brain to my muscles didn't work. And again, how awesome is it now that I work with muscles and get them to do the right thing? I mean, you just look at the synergy and the connections and the threads that your life holds. So so I use kinesiology to find people's stress triggers and where they're holding it and what can they do about it.
Oh, that's fantastic, because it's different for every person in the way that they deal with stress and where they embody it. And presumably that's to do with who they've been in the world up to that point.
Yep. And stress is implicated in all ill health without exception. It all starts with stress of some form, like a stress trigger or stress memory that grows and builds. And then you so where you grow a stress trigger, you can de-stress that as well. So you can't change what's been, but you can certainly influence and change future decisions if you know. And I think that's the thing I love about kinesiology is the light bulb moments that people get, oh my God, is that what's holding me back, or is that why I find this awkward? Like you with your experience with the person and the knife, it would be something that in future you were aware or more aware of your surroundings and how you sat next to someone or where you positioned yourself, especially if your danger hackles went up.
Well, that's right, if you actually listened. And I never leave knives on the bench. You know,
No,
always put them on the drawer, in the drawer, not on
yeah,
the drawer,
yeah,
in the drawer where they belong. So there's always a memory of your
yeah,
body going, these are dangerous things and they need to be placed somewhere else.
yeah.
And to listen, I think after that I really listened a lot more to my
Well, it's
intuition.
pretty,
As a
pretty
nurse, I
strong.
had good intuition. I have really good medical intuition. I can sense when something's not right, and a lot of the time I can put my finger on it. So, but I hadn't listened to that intuition for myself. And I think
Yeah.
that's a turning point in life, isn't it? When you start listening to what you need and what your energy is telling you.
Yeah. Well, you were probably in nurse mode. I often say to clients, think of different hats that you wear. So if you were in your nurse mode, you weren't in your danger mode. Because
Yes.
as a nurse, you went into danger more often than not anyhow, especially in the field that you were working.
Yes.
It wasn't like pediatrics or something like that. It was a more stronger field that you worked in because you just didn't know what a person's brain was doing at the time. So it's very interesting. But it's that whole emotion, and that's where kinesiology comes into its own. An acupuncturist, which is a very similar kind of concept, will use a needle in a specific point. My needles are emotions. What's the prime or causal emotion that's causing that response? How can you get a better one?
It must give you a lot of joy to help people release blocks or energy, or and to be able to help them have their energy flow again.
Absolutely. I believe that our number one reason to be on earth is to have joy and happiness for ourselves first, and then for at least one other person. Our job's done.
I like to say the collaborative human heart, you know, that
Yeah,
heart that we're all working together. And I can
yeah,
see that that's part of your existence, is working in a collaborative way through the heart.
yeah. And
I
you align to people. You end up finding people that have a similar vibration to you. Because if they don't, you're not as inclined to hang around.
Yes.
So you need to leave. You need to be able to be who you are and not feel judged.
Yes.
So
And it's good to be around people who language the same way, you know, who talk about things, say, in a respectful way, or help you be the best version of yourself you can be, rather than just placate whatever it is you're saying, especially if you're
yeah,
whinging about something, you know,
yeah,
having the courage to go, well, could you look at it this way?
yeah. And you find you wanted to help the world. I don't know if you were like that as a nurse. You wanted to help everyone, and
Yes.
it's quite a shock to know that people don't often want to be helped, or they're not ready for the help yet. So it's really that matter of finding the people that are and embracing them, and knowing too. Like I think there's several shocks in being a natural therapist. One of them was the realization that you didn't get a job at the end of it. You had to make your own business. So I hadn't really factored that into life. That's been a journey in its own. And for me, the medical terminology, I nearly went nuts. I started training at 46. I was in the middle of menopause, and I'd go to lessons and I'd go, I wonder if they spoke English. Couldn't I understand? I couldn't spell it. I didn't have a clue. And I'd write things down. I took so many notes because it was the only way I could learn. And then you have the shock of suddenly a client doesn't like what you do, and you go, really? Why? Why aren't you coming back? I help you. I want to help everyone. And you do learn to narrow that field down a bit.
And I transitioned from medical into natural medicine, which
Okay.
was unpopular with medical people.
Yes,
So
it still is.
I was in those early years when it was seen as voodoo, you know,
Yeah,
rather than, and so over time, marrying
the two.
the two together. So
But
go
that's
ahead.
what it should be. We should, like, the natural therapy concepts should be easily integrated with modern medicine. And there shouldn't be a time where a doctor says, oh, if you want to go and do that voodoo stuff, or what do you call it? not even voodoo, it was something else. And the lady was elderly and she wasn't getting help. At least the natural therapies were helping her. You know, and a lot of nurses, like when I was training, I'd say probably 20% of the practitioners that were being trained were nurses as well. And they kind of had credibility straight away. So when they were opening their practices, they had their real credentials there, and then they had their natural therapy credentials. And it made a difference to people's perceptions.
Trust. You know, if someone's got a medical background to begin with, there's a basis of trust that you have to work harder to get if you don't have that background, I guess.
Yeah, especially if you haven't got a degree. Like this was my first ever degree, because I hated school. You know, I went through that rheumatic fever and synovitis dance time, and I couldn't wait to leave school and get a job and not be judged by other people. So I fought until I was 46, and then I gave in.
It must have been hard to get a job if you had movements that weren't able to be controlled.
It eventually got controlled, and you left school and you got a government job or an office job. I remember my first job was a traineeship with David Jones, and it was one of those like an administration trainee, and they took you on, and for 2 months at a time you moved all around the different sections of the office, and I loved it. It was great.
I remember having an office job in my and you had to file accounts in alphabetical order behind people's names, and I kept getting them all wrong and putting them in front of the name, which then becomes someone else's. And I think in the end they just went, I don't think she's suited to being that sort of organisation. And now I have my spices in alphabetical order.
No, you poor thing.
It's great. You know, when you're going to look for a spice, having it in alphabetical order really works, I can tell you.
I have my essential oils in alphabetical order until I take one out and put one in somewhere else, and then I go, where is it?
It's so easy. So I'm wondering if you'd like to share what makes your heart sing.
Well, actually, family makes my heart sing. I love being with family. I cared for mum and dad for many years. Mum and I would do coffee chats. Coffee chats was we would go out and have cups of coffee and cream cake to our heart's desire and enjoy the moment and not eat guilty. So that all stemmed from mum was 90. She turned 90, so we had the big party for her, and she was very sad that afternoon. I'm going, what's going on? Because there was so much lead up to it. And she said, you can't help but know at 90 you're at the end of your life, not at the beginning. And she said, I'm having so much fun. She was my biggest groupie. She'd come to everything. And she said, I don't want to leave. I'm really having fun, and I don't want to leave you guys and the children and everything. And I went, oh, God, what can we do? So it was about looking forward. So what can we be grateful for? So I said, I know. Let's come up with 91 cups of coffee and cream cake. And she went, really? And I said, yeah, it's your 90th birthday. Between 90 and 91, we'll have coffee and cream 91 times. Mind you, I did not think about only 52 weeks in the year. To me, 91 seemed a reasonable number to find. And mum loved Facebook. She was very careful. She had 18 friends, and she would tell me each day that I'd found another friend and I had to be careful. But she loved the way it shared things around the world. So what we did is we'd take a picture of mum enjoying her coffee and her cream cake or whatever kind, and we'd load it on Facebook and tag her, and people would respond. And we got a following. We had people that would ring and say, can we join coffee chats? We got to 107, by the way, in a year.
That's amazing.
The blessing is I work for myself. So I had time for my family, for myself and for my clients. So I've never wanted a clinic that's so full I don't have time. So my family factor into what I do and everything in life.
That's really beautiful, because family is important, and sometimes they don't have to be in your bloodline either to be family. No. Sometimes we choose friends who become family.
Absolutely. So it's that connection to my it's my heart. Yeah.
So as we come towards the end of the interview, Marney, I'm wondering, is there something that your heart wants to say that I haven't asked you?
I think you've covered just about everything. You need to listen to your innermost heart's desire, because when you haven't got your heart's desire, that's when life is fragmented and not good. So find out what it is that you love. And look, so many people cannot tell you what makes them happy. you'll ask them what makes you happy, and they go, I'm happy when so and so happens. Yeah, no, that's external. What makes you happy? You know, what can you say? And it's something I encourage my clients to find as well, and it helps me in life as well, is what are the 10 things in life that give you joy and happiness? And one of them is your favorite food. And because I'm a natural therapist, people try and tell me kale chips and stuff like that. I go, how can that be anyone?
Kale
Oh,
chips.
but, you know, they think it has to be healthy, but it's not. It's what food nurtured you. So when you were a child, what food did you get given from your mum or your grandmother or someone that made you feel nurtured? And mine is tin tomato soup and Vegemite soldiers. You know,
Together.
Well, you dunk the Vegemite toast in your tomato soup. But mum made me that if I was feeling unwell. And we grew up quite, you know, we weren't rich. We were quite poor. So we lived in housing commission homes and rented homes and things like that. And Dad followed the trade. But mum always made the house a home. And that's probably where I've got it from, is your home is your heart. And you make it comfortable. You make it yours, even if it's someone else's. And, you know, put a nice curtain up. She'd always make me a new set of curtains, check gingham curtains with a scallopy kind of bottom and things like that. And what is your favourite food? And when you're unwell or you're feeling yourself going in a downward slope, go and get that food and have it. Because what it does, it says to you, I'm nurturing myself.
Yes.
Yours is the beach. So some people like the beach, some people like the ocean. So what place is your happy place? And if you can't physically go there, get pictures of it. Bring out your memories of fun times. And, you know, we all have sadness in our life, and we all have, you know, arguments and passings and different things, but don't dwell on them. See whether you acknowledge them and be, like, let yourself have that moment, but then step out of it and look for something positive.
Oh, that's beautiful. Marney, would you like to tell people how they can contact you?
Absolutely. I'm Marney. So it's Kinique.com is my business, KINIQUE.com. And I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, all over the place. Just email me. Find me. You'll find me. Google Marney Perna and you will find me.
How do you spell your last name?
Peter, E-R-N-A.
Beautiful. Perna.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just been lovely having a conversation with you today about the heart, Marney. I feel inspired and warmed.
Thank you. It's been lovely. I love to talk.
Yeah, I love to talk too. I think we're doing the right thing in having interviews, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Stacey's done a marvellous thing with her book. It'll be so exciting when it's finally released.
1,000 ripple effects. It's going to be incredible. And she is one inspiring woman. Amazing.
She is.
And I'm in it and I can't wait either. It's going to be amazing.
And I thank you for the opportunity for the chat too. So it's lovely to have these interviews.
Pleasure. So thank you very much, Marney Perna, for being my guest today and for the work that you do in the world in helping women find their heart centre and in living their life from the heart, bringing them some peace. It's a really beautiful thing that you do in the world.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Robyn Mills from Humanity's Heart. Until we meet again, may your heart beat to the rhythm of humanity's heart.